a very basic yet fundamental topic, which is about epidemiological anthropology. And within this, we will focus upon three things. First is health and disease. We will look upon how health and disease are socially constructed. What is the biomedical reasons behind that? What are the explanations behind a proper health, a good health, and what are the explanations behind if someone is getting a disease, an illness? And we will look upon certain explanations which are provided. We will look upon different concepts of health, okay, in that sense. And then finally we will differentiate between sickness, illness and disease, which we use these terms in a very, in a very general way in everyday life. We say that I am ill, we are diseased, so, but at the end of this unit, you will come to know that what is the fundamental difference between these three terms from an anthropological perspective. Second, we will focus upon infectious and non-infectious diseases. Basically, are communicable and non-communicable disease in one sense. Disease which spread from one person to other, and the disease which are chronic in nature, which does not spread in simple sense. And third is your nutrition related deficiencies. And you must have heard about so many nutrition related deficiencies, like lack of calcium, vitamin D leads to rickets, okay, vitamin A, beriberi, okay, if you are consuming food that is required more than your daily calorific value, obesity can happen, accumulation of fat in blood vessels, chronic heart attacks, all of these things. So we'll deal with nutrition related deficiencies, and where we also talk about protein, energy malnutrition, kwashiorkor, marasmus, all of those diseases. So in previous examinations, questions have been asked, especially on infectious and non-infectious disease. Okay. For epidemiological anthropology, in 10 marks, they have directly asked that what is it is all about. Okay, and give a brief background of this discipline. But yes, infectious and non-infectious disease are important. The government has also, brought in certain policies for communicable diseases. If you visit Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website, you will find that there is a section on communicable disease. That what are the policies which we have for that. For nutritional related deficiency, we have, for example, the Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan 2.0 is in process now. So all of that, we will deal with all of that. Okay. So today we will deal about what epidemiological anthropology is all about, and then we will switch towards the concept of health and disease. And maybe in tomorrow's class, the next two topics will be covered. So in 2 classes, we will cover this whole system. Okay. And we'll begin with that what epidemiology is, the definition of epidemiology. Before switching to what epidemiological anthropology is, first we should know what epidemiology is. So the word epidemiology, I will write it epi, okay. Epidemiology, I'll write it epi. It is derived from a Greek word which is epi, which means upon, demos meaning the populace or common people, and logos means what. So it is the study of what is upon the populace. You need not to write this, okay? Do not write this one. The study of what is upon the populace, referring to burden of disease. See, if you go into the etymology of this word, epi upon demos, the populace or common people, and logos means the word. So the study of what is upon the populace or the people. It's just this one from this perspective. If you break out this word, it means the study of what is upon the populace. कि population के ऊपर है क्या? Especially referring to burden of disease. So one thing is clear that we are somehow studying something related to disease on population. So if you break this word epidemiology, it is somehow connotating in layman terms that we are studying something related to disease in human population. Okay. Now going to more complex and more refining understanding of this term, that what is epidemiology all about. We say that epidemiology is defined as the study of the distribution and determinants of health related states or events in specified populations and the application of this study to control the health problems. So you see, the definition says, which was given by Osland, it says that study of the distribution and determinants of health related states. First thing, distribution. Second is determinants of health related states. So what are these health related states? Anyone, for example, what are these health related states? Okay, so have you heard of the words like infant mortality rate, IMR, crude birth rates, mortality rate, death rate, morbidity rates? These are health related states. Diseases, disease load in a population, antibody, and this what we say, how many antibodies are present in a particular, population group, what is the percent. During COVID, there was this term, when so many people have these antibodies. What was that? There was herd immunity. These are all health related states. Okay, so distribution and determinants of all these health related states or events in specified populations. We are not talking about a common globe, all world, we have specified populations. For example, we can talk about spread of G6PD or sickle cell anemia among the Gujarati population, thalassemia among the Gujarati population, specified, and the application of this study to control the health problems. So whatever data you are generating from these health related events, which are distributed in different geographical spaces, and there are certain determinants for these health related states, there are certain causes due to which these states are taking place in specified populations. So you are using all this data for future prospects to control these systems. For example, you have COVID initially, it spread across the world as a pandemic. But what happened in mean course of time? That you took information, you took knowledge from the states of health related states of people, and you developed the vaccine. So to control that in future, that is what epidemiology is all about with respect to what Osland is talking about. Okay. Another, it is the study of distribution and, very simple definition, distribution and determinants of disease frequency in men. Very simple definition. Study of distribution and determinants of disease frequency in men. Okay, a very layman definition, as we say. You can also say that it is the science that studies the patterns, causes, and effects of health and disease conditions in defined populations. So from these three definitions, one thing is clear, that it focuses upon three things. Number one, that it studies disease and its patterns. That what is a disease, how it is being caused, and what is the pattern of that disease. Like for example, if you talk about smallpox, that when the colonial people, they went to American coast, they took smallpox with them, and half of the Native American population, it vanished away. So you see the disease and its patterns, how it spread from one population to other. Second common thing is that you are talking about a defined population. Okay, the population is defined. You're studying disease and its pattern in a defined population. So these two things are very much common. And third is disease and its patterns, and you also study the effects. What are the probable effects? So in epidemiology, as a science, we study these effects in biological terms. So when we talk about what is the impact of COVID on the body or on the population group, we tend to say that it decreases your antibody reactions, it decreases your immunity system, it impacts your cell structures, all of that. It like in initial times when there was this first, second waves, it impacted the lungs, all of that, your respiratory tracts. So we study in that system, but it is more than that. There has to be a system which transcends the boundary of this epidemiological definition, and that's where epidemiological anthropology, it comes into place. Yes. So you need not to write all, just write down one or two definitions from these, that will suffice you in that sense. Okay. Now let's see what does epidemiology it study as a discipline. What does it study? Okay. So what does it study? Anyone? It study cause of disease. That how a disease is caused. What are the factors for causation of a disease? Whether it is airborne disease, it is waterborne disease, okay, or it is a disease by a certain microorganism, whether it is due to nutritional deficiency. So it studies the cause of a disease. Second, the health impact. health impact of disease. That what is the bio, socio and psychological impact? Basically your bio, socio and psychological impact on the health of an individual of this particular disease. Okay. On a broader scale, what is the socio-economic impact? Like for example, what was the socio-economic impact of COVID-19? That people have lost their jobs. In meantime, they have shifted towards a newer, newer way of working, and how that is again creating newer forms of occupational lifestyle diseases. That sitting for longer hours at your home place, working posture, all of those people when they are working from home, their diet patterns have been deregulated again after sitting for longer hours. All of these things, the socio-economic impact. And it also studies disease patterns and frequency. So it studies all these things. That what is the pattern of a disease, whether it is an endemic disease, that it is specified to a particular area, whether it is pandemic, okay, whether it is communicable disease or it is a non-communicable disease. So all of these things. What is the frequency, like 1 in 10,000, 2 in 1 lakhs, that frequency of the disease. Or it might also study the frequency of outbreaks, that what might be a normal time duration that these outbreaks are coming in place. So we can say that like the last big pandemic was what? Before COVID, what was that? It was around 1920s, remember that? There was London plague before that, smallpox was there, polio was there. So these kind of, bubonic plagues, all of these kind of small outbreaks were there in place. And they were due to certain changes in, the local environment. This started from a single point and this then spread like wildfire across the world. So all of that. So we study all of these patterns, right? Okay. So these are some of the things which epidemiology does. What are the uses of epidemiology? Number one, it helps in assessing the health of community. So by doing certain surveys, by doing certain, this epidemiological surveys, you can identify whether a particular population is suffering from any deficiency with respect to nutrition, for example, like whether they have, or they might have certain blood related disease, thalassemia, for example. So all they do by screening that community. For example, in Gujarat, there is a high prevalence of beta thalassemia. There is sickle cell and beta thalassemia, and sickle cell is especially in the central belt, but in Gujarat it's beta thalassemia. So how do we came to know about that? Through surveys, through screening methods, by analyzing the population structures. Okay, so it gives us a good indication that what is the overall health of a community. It can tell us how that disease is spreading in that community. Simple, like it can tell us about that. So assessing community health. It can help us in completing the clinical picture. It can help us in completing the clinical picture. Making informed decisions. that you have a, like as we did, as we studied in this slide, that it provides us with disease patterns and frequency. Also we have seen in the definition distribution and determinants of disease frequency. So here with all that data we can make informed choices that whether to proceed ahead and how to control that particular disease. Okay, like for COVID, it was after looking at what kind of reactions that virus does inside the body, we were able to make the vaccines. Okay, so making informed choices. Otherwise, we could have just been lost in track that what kind of vaccines should be made. So we made RNA-based vaccine, DNA-based vaccines, all of that things, because that was informed choices. We have data for that. So they focus more on data. Okay, individual is not of importance to them as such, but community is more important in epidemiological studies. Okay. And also searching for causes of disease, that what might be the cause. Like for COVID, investigations are on that whether it started from China or some other place. Okay, things like that. Recently, take this example when this so many cows are dying. Lump skin. See, so epidemiological data will help in understanding what might be the cause for that. How to, vaccines are there for that. That goat vaccine or something is there, so that will be given. So because they know that vaccine is efficient for that virus. Okay, things like that. So these are the uses of epidemiology in general sense. So types of epidemiology. One is your descriptive, another one is your analytic. Okay. So your descriptive epidemiology deals with frequency and distribution of diseases or risk factors in the population. अरे अंजलि अभी तो शुरू हुई है यूनिट, खत्म तो हो जाने दो, मटेरियल भी मिल जाएगा. Okay, so it deals with frequency and distribution of disease or risk factors in the population. Simple, very simple understanding that what is the frequency of disease, what is its distribution, and what are the risk factors in that sense. So it's basically describing an event. Okay. And we will talk with analytic later. So okay, let's write it down. So analytic is aims to research and study risk factors and preventive factors for disease. So here we are looking at frequency and distribution. Okay, but here we are aiming to find out what are the preventive factors for that disease. So here you have known that disease is existing, and at the another part, at the analytic part, you are looking for certain solutions to stop the spreading of a disease, or maybe in future to control that disease, frame policies, Okay, all of that. So your descriptive epidemiology, it is used to evaluate, number one, trends in disease. That what are the trends in disease? Because when you are looking at frequency of a disease, okay, you are not just looking at that at what point of time, or you're not sorry, when we are looking at the frequency of a disease, we are not seeing exactly that what is the number of people who are infected. That is not our sole case, but we are also looking that what is the population which is also at risk. It is not only the population who is infected, but it is also the population who is at risk. Risk factors in population, anyone? The word risk. Anyone who knows what is risk factor all about? More suspicious, more prone. The population which is more suspicious and more prone to for catching a disease. And for that there are certain factors. Like for example, even if you do not smoke, okay, but someone around you is smoking, that means you are at risk of being a passive smoker. So you might also catch infections in your respiratory tract. Okay, so those are risk factors around you. Okay. Determine if health status is improving or getting worse, because from the patterns, yes, it's more vulnerable basically. Yes, condition predisposes an individual, exactly. So it helps in determining if health status is improving or getting worse, because we are having the distribution of a particular disease or risk factor, so we can know that whether the disease is increasing or decreasing, or the health status is increasing or decreasing in a population. To determine if new diseases are occurring. So, and on a global scale, you can know about it, that whether new diseases are coming or not. Like with coming of, for example, climate change, it's for sure that certain newer diseases will emerge because of that. Because of sitting elongated hours at your workplace, it is sure that certain new diseases will emerge in that sense. So by studying all those populations, you can identify it in descriptive epidemiology. Okay, like especially in African population, if you go there, you can find out that there is an instant outbreak of new diseases, because those people are predisposed to vulnerable conditions around them. Their poverty is exempt there, illiteracy is there, malnutrition is there. So all these are risk factors for emergence of a new disease. Okay, so this was for descriptive part. The analytic epidemiology, it focuses it helps us in understand underlying causes of the pattern of disease. Or health outcome. Investigate the causes also. So you see, when we say that it helps in understanding underlying causes of pattern of disease or health outcome, what do we mean to say here is that, for example, when AIDS it started spreading across US, it was first thought that the blacks or the Hispanic population in that region, they got it from Africa by having intercourse with an animal or chimpanzee, as they used to say. So there was this narratives which were, or discourse which were prevalent in initial days, that how AIDS came to human beings. So it was due to unnatural intercourse between human and animal in that sense. Okay. All the burden that why AIDS spread, it was laid down upon the Negroid population, or the Negroid population was staying, or the American blacks in US, because they went to Africa, they went, for their own purposes, and when they came back, it started spreading. Okay. But that was actually not the case. There might be different reasons. That was exactly not the case at that point of time. Okay. Similarly, the theory goes about having COVID that it's emerged from a lab or a market in China. Underlying cause was that if someone ate a bat from a market and it started spreading. So all of these are just speculative theories, as we say. Okay. And if you take another historical example, that why the London plague spread, or why people who were going for long ship voyages, they have rickets. So there are underlying causes for that. So analytic epidemiology understands that what are the underlying causes for that, what are the social causes for that, what are the ecological causes for that, whether malaria, why it is being caused. Even if you are living in a clean environment, it is not just you who is living there. That is why in epidemiology, it is the population, not the individual, which is at focus. You might be safe, but people around you might be predisposed to certain risks. That is why we live in a risk society. Ulrich Beck talks about something called risk society. That with coming of modernity, with coming of newer forms of technology, industrialization and all of that, globalization, we have increased our risks, unwarranted risks. We never know what's there in future, because it is so unpredictable. Initial hunter gatherers were there, they know इसे मारेंगे खाएंगे बात खत्म हो जाएगी. सिंपल था, हंटिंग पे गए, kill an animal, bring it back, eat it and sleep and repeat. Simple as that. But now you are in a risk society. You never know the actions you are taking now, what it might lead to tomorrow. So we are living in a constant state of risk. Okay. So this is about analytic this epidemiology. Moving ahead, and it is not just about disease, it is also about health outcome. Like you have your this midday meal in government schools. So the meal that is being served to the children out there, it is served in a very calculative purpose, that this is the amount of protein, this is the amount of carbohydrate and fats will be given. So it is first measured on a scale, then it is put into the utensil for cooking purposes. So then you do anthropometric studies, you measure the children based on their height and weight, then you calculate whether it is wasting or stunting going on. So measure the health outcomes also. Okay, it is not just about predicting disease patterns, it is also about measuring the health outcomes of a particular government program. So like Poshan Abhiyan, it is going there. So similarly to like that, there are many other state government programs in every state, which are there. So to measure those health outcomes, further studies will be conducted in that sense. Now, coming to what epidemiological anthropology is. So the biggest advantage of anthropology is it can attach itself with anyone. It is open to collaborations. Okay, you can collaborate this discipline with any discipline across the world and still generate valuable data. Okay, for example, anthropology's association with very unspecified discipline, a very unrelated discipline. Can anyone think of it? दैट इसने मतलब किसी ऐसे डिसिप्लिन के साथ कोलैबोरेट किया जो सोच नहीं सकते हम लोग. There is something called mathematical anthropology. There is something called mechanical anthropology. Things like that. So that's unusual in sense. But math is not just numbers. It is the humans who create those numbers. And how does human create those numbers and what is the variable impact upon them? That's what anthropology studies in that. How number reflects genders, a gender bias. You do coding, people do coding, people create artificial intelligent designs. You have Siri, you have a voice assistant from Google. And if you go and look the studies which have been, because it is, this whole Silicon Valley is male centric. It is the males who are more of, there in the engineers who are there. And if you go deep down into how these are constructed, there is a very big male bias in construction of these artificial voices, be it Siri, be it, Google, Alexa, anything. It has a voice of female, but the inherent biasness of males are completely visible into that. If you do a deeper analysis of that, it is structured in a way that there has been a gender disparity. So that's how things work. And that, how can you do that? By studying that anthropologically, by dwelling deeper into gender imbalances, studying how gender works. Because those engineers have been completely socialized in a different way. So they will make it in their own perspective. तो क्या वो फीमेल्स को कंसीडर करेंगे? नहीं करेंगे. जैसे उन्हें ट्रेन किया गया वो वैसे करेंगे. एंड इंजीनियरिंग इज अ मेल डोमिनेटेड सब्जेक्ट सिंस द बिगिनिंग. फिजिक्स सब यही चलता आ रहा है, तो वो ऐसे ही बना देते हैं उसे, एंड सिस्टम वर्क्स इन दैट सेंस, है ना. So epidemiological anthropology by definition is it confers to the determination of, it confers to the determination manifestation and distribution of certain diseases and disorders in human communities spread all over the globe. So it says that this is the first part. There are two parts of the definition. This is the first part. So it says that confers epidemiological anthropology confers to determination, number one, manifestation and distribution of certain diseases and disorders in human communities spread over all the globe. So we are studying the determination, manifestation and distribution of diseases in human beings across the globe. So this is the first part of the definition, where the focus is more upon that what are the factors which determine the prevalence of a disease, and these factors can be biological, social, psychological, ecological, any factors. How they are manifested in human populations, means how they are transmitted from one person to another, how they are expressed in human population, and how they are distributed geographically. Like people who are, living in agriculturally fertile lands where swamps are there, so they are more prone to malaria. Okay, geography has a good relation with prevalence of diseases. That's one thing. There are so many diseases which are geographically related. Okay, certain disease and disorders in human communities. So we are studying human communities spread across the globe. So three things are important: determination, manifestation and distribution. The second part here is epidemiological anthropology, it elucidates the etiological factors, disease causing factors, involved in disease incidence and emphasis on population variation in incidence and occurrence. Okay. Disease causing factors, disorder and disease. वरुण इसके बारे में विल टॉक अबाउट, जब व्हेन विल टॉक अबाउट हेल्थ एंड डिजीज तो डिजीज एंड डिसऑर्डर के बारे में बात करेंगे. ठीक है. So you see, it tells us about the factors which are responsible for prevalence of a disease, the underlying causes that why a disease is caused. It tells us about that, and emphasis is on population variation. So it is not just talking about in a single population, we are talking about variation in different populations. That why is the case that malaria is more prevalent in places which are more agriculturist in their occupation, because there are swamps, standing water is there in the fields. Okay. On population variation, that why people who are living on these tropics, or why people living at these the poles, they have different diseases of the environment. It tells about with comparison and incidence, variation in incidence and occurrence. So between different populations we are trying to know what are the different disease causing factors, because disease is not just a single manifestation, it is a combination of your genetic and local environment. Okay, most of the diseases are a combination of your genetic disposition and environmental influence. So we study these in epidemiology as such. Like the physical anthropologists who are into epidemiology, they study the relation of these things with a particular disease. Okay, with a particular disease. So now one thing is clear, that we are studying the distribution of a disease, we are studying the patterns of disease, the underlying factors of a disease. Three things: the variation in disease patterns among different populations. 4, the outcome of a health program, or what? One more thing, the outcome of a health program and also the outcome of a disease. That what is the health outcome of the disease. Etiological factors means disease causing factors. Yeah. Disease causing, what factors might cause a disease. Genetic factors है, environmental factors हैं आपके, social factors हैं आपके, ठीक है, all of that are there into this. So this was an introduction about what epidemiology is, what epidemiological anthropology is. Now we will see that where does anthropology and epidemiology, they converge with each other, and what is that field? Can anyone guess where these two disciplines apart from epidemiological anthropology they converge with each other? वो कौन सा ऐसा सब फील्ड है या कौन सी ऐसा डिसिप्लिन है जहां पर एपिडेमोलॉजी और एंथ्रोपोलॉजी दे कन्वर्ज विद ईच अदर, दे कैन हेल्प ईच अदर apart from epidemiological anthropology? Biology? No. No. बहुत ही सिंपल सा एक है डिसिप्लिन. कल्चरल तो सारी ही है, कहीं चले जाओ. मेडिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी. It is in this discipline, these both of these disciplines they work together. Okay, यहां पर आकर कन्वर्ज हो जाते हैं. Because epidemiological anthropology as a sub-discipline is not, it has not been well acquainted, well established as such compared to medical anthropology, which is well established. Okay, public policy, medicine, genetics, yes, सब कुछ आ गया. Okay, so we will look how medical anthropology and epidemiology are related. Okay, don't know how both of these disciplines can help each other. But before that, let us look about the differences between anthropology and epidemiology. So epidemiology, it studies biomedically defined diseases. It studies biomedically defined diseases. The diseases which originate due to reasons given by Western biomedicine. Biomedicine, Western biomedicine पता है सब? Allopathic medicine आपकी Western medicine. Simple. Doctor जो normal है आपके. Whereas anthropology is more focused on study of illness experiences. It is more focused on study of illness experiences. Like there's this person, Eric Castle. He says that illness is what you go to a doctor with. Illness is what you go to a doctor. Okay? But it is the disease you come back with. Getting my point? Illness is what you go with. Disease is what you come back with when you visit a doctor. So Eric Castle says that thing. So disease is what epidemiology is, and illness is what anthropology talks about. Okay, experiences in that. Second is, it is reductionist and positivistic. Holistic and humanistic. Anthropology का तो I didn't need to tell you what holism and humanistic is, ये आपको पता होगा. But when it comes to epidemiology, reductionist and positivistic, like you have a data, from that you reduce it to smaller fragments. Reduction means, reducing, like you have a data set, you will reduce it like that, funnel it down to bring a conclusion from that. You are reducing the whole data into smaller fragments. And positivistic means it uses principles of your subjects which of natural sciences. It uses principle of natural sciences such as physics, mathematics. So all within epidemiology you use certain formulas, for example, to calculate birth rate, death rate, mortality, that what is the frequency of a disease. So where are those coming from? From these positivistic sciences, the natural sciences you have. You apply the fundamentals of natural sciences, the methods, to come to conclusions. Okay. Third is about methods of study. They are more quantitative in nature. Because these people use statistics. Because by definition, the epidemiology, it uses population based statistical models. तो आप कोविड की फ्रीक्वेंसी का कैसे पता लगाते थे, हार्ट फ्रीक्वेंसी कैसे पता लगाते थे, यूजिंग बायोस्टैटिस्टिकल मॉडल्स. सो इट इज क्वांटिटेटिव इन नेचर, whereas anthropology is qualitative, ethnography, interviews, face to face interviews, all of that. Epidemiology, it blames the victims for their risky behavior. Okay. Whereas anthropology, it examines the micro macro level of conditions giving rise to these behaviors. अब देखिए एपिडेमोलॉजी क्या करता है, it blames the victim for their risky behavior. It will blame the people, that it is you who have to be blamed up, that why did you contacted that person who was having a flu or who is having a COVID, why did you went there. It will blame the victim itself, the patient basically. But when it comes to anthropology, it will examine the micro macro conditions which led for that individual, for that risky behavior, that why that individual went there, what impulse did he get to follow those behaviors, that micro macro behaviors. Because behaviors are not simple things that you just, it's not just about your external influence, how you behave in public. It is much more micro in that. Your small actions, the way you use time, the way you use touch, the way you use your body language, they all comes under your this behavioral patterns. So any reason can be here is that because you are not following social distancing, that is why you caught a flu, COVID, anything. But here it will be straight away that you came in contact and you got the disease, as simple as that. No examination of what might be the situation is, what might be the influencing factors. Okay. And the last one, epidemiology, it generates risk and medicalized life. Whereas anthropology, it critiques risk and attempts to alleviate human suffering. So your epidemiology as a discipline, it generates risk, that if you are finding patterns of an epidemic disease in a particular group, they will say that, oh, this disease might spread to other groups also. So it is generating risk, that everyone is at risk. Like during COVID time, every individual was at risk, despite of the fact that how much security you have around you. You are caught inside a room, just locked yourself, but still you are at risk. So it was generating a sense of risk and medicalized life. So in order to reduce that risk, you have to assess, or you have to take these medical facilities, get checkup at proper times, take medicine, take vaccination, go to a health checkup. So a sense of medicalized life. And this is not just limited to these checkups only. Things have went beyond that nowadays. For example, have you heard of the Human Genome Project? Okay. Very simple, like more or less everyone knows about it. It was about DNA sequencing. So by 2000 it was completed. 2001 the first draft was published in 2001. Okay. So what happens is, after this whole genome sequencing project was completed, there were certain companies, basically the venture capitalists as we call them, उन्होंने क्या किया, they started investing in these ventures which were genomic in nature. Information openly available है, genome sequencing. अब you go to PubMed, search for a DNA sequence, information is available. ठीक है. अब कैपिटलिज्म का काम क्या है? यही तो काम है, प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइजेशन करना, लेबर एक्सप्लॉइट करके प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइज करना. सो दीज वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट फ्रॉम यूएस, अदर कंट्रीज, जो कंपनियां आ रही थी बाहर, दे केम टू इंडिया इन मुंबई. पीपल ऑफ पारेल, हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ दिस एरिया? लोअर पारेल एरिया है ना, पारेल एरिया जो है, वहां पर गए, वॉलंटियर रिक्रूट करे लोगों के पास, क्योंकि पैसा नहीं था. सो for money people can do anything, so they get themselves recruited for this study, for these private companies and all, जिस कैपिटल वेंचरिस्ट हैं, जो बायोफार्मा कंपनीज एंड ऑल, उनसे डेटा लिया, सीक्वेंस करा, ठीक है, कितना पे करा, थोड़ा जितना भी करना था. द सेम डेटा दे टुक फ्रॉम देम, दैट विल बी यूज्ड टू जनरेट टू थिंग्स. हाइप एंड होप. हाइप किस बात की? अब हमारे पास डेटा है, नाउ यू नो दैट यू आर एट कांस्टेंट रिस्क. अभी तो बॉडी बाहर तक ही रिस्क में थी. वेंचर कैपिटलिज्म ने क्या किया, बॉडी के अंदर रिस्क क्रिएट कर दिया ना, कि आप जेनेटिक लेवल तक रिस्क पे हो. बट हम लोग जो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, वी आर ऑल्सो गिविंग ए होप कि हम ठीक कर देंगे बाय जीन एडिटिंग, क्रिस्पर टेक्नोलॉजीज. तो पोस्ट जीनोमिक लाइफ की बात जब हम करते हैं, जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग के बाद की बात है, पोस्ट जीनोमिक लाइफ की बात. तो जो बॉडी है, द बॉडी, ये क्या बन के रह गई? जो रिस्क की बात हम कर रहे हैं, क्रिटिक कर रहे हैं रिस्क की, इट इज अ सोर्स ऑफ लेबर एज वेल एज अ सोर्स ऑफ प्रॉफिट फॉर वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट. यही तो होगा, दिस विल बी द एंड रिजल्ट. इन मार्क्सियन टर्म्स, इफ यू नो कार्ल मार्क्स, हर्ड ऑफ हिम, लेबर का कंसेप्ट जो है पूरा, द बॉडी इज जस्ट अ कैपिटल, एंड हु इज द अल्टीमेट बेनिफिशियरीज? द वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट. सो ये जो मेडिकलाइज्ड लाइफ है, ये कहां, ये सब यही तो है. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग एग्जांपल कि हाउ लाइफ हैज बीन मेडिकलाइज्ड एट द वेरी माइन्यूट लेवल, रिडक्शन लेवल, जेनेटिक लेवल तक बात चली गई है. इट्स नॉट जस्ट अबाउट going for this normal health checkup. Okay, so all of that. But anthropology, it is critiquing risk. It attempts to alleviate human suffering. Okay, it goes, it understands why a disease is caused. It connects with the local people. Like in Africa, when these people from international NGOs and associations, they went to screen AIDS, for AIDS screening basically. So the people there, they said that these people are coming again to colonize us via new mechanisms. Okay, so they did not went to these screenings. But when anthropologists intervened, they came to know about that. One of these reason was that कि colonization होगा दोबारा. Second reason ये था कि it might be caused due to witchcraft and sorcery, which were the local beliefs. तो डॉक्टर्स को तो कभी पता ही नहीं चल पाता कि अंडरलाइंग रीजन है क्या, why these people are not getting screened for AIDS. They intervened, they told these people, the epidemiologists, that this is the reason why they are resisting. Then you incorporate culture into your practice, and that's where a new dimension emerges, which is cultural epidemiology. The concept was propounded by James Trostel, 2005. Okay, James Trostel. In his book Epidemiology and Culture, a very beautiful book, is written Epidemiology and Culture. So he's associating social anthropology with epidemiology. Okay, and he's long concerned with having a collaboration of anthropology and epidemiology. So cultural epidemiology, by definition, is it is a framework. Should I write it? Cultural epidemiology, a framework that integrate the anthropological concept of culture into set of explanatory variables used by epidemiologists to explain diseases. Okay. So a framework है that integrates the concept of culture into set of explanatory variables which are used by your epidemiologist to explain disease. So यहाँ पर क्या है कि culture is used as an explanatory framework along with your biomedical framework to explain why a disease is caused. तो आप क्या कर रहे हो, दोनों फ्रेमवर्क कंसिडर कर रहे हो, कल्चर का भी और डिजीज बायोलॉजिकल उसका मेडिसिन का भी. ओके, सो इन अ डायग्रामेटिक फॉर्म इफ यू ड्रॉ दिस, लिख लिया. सो दिस इज योर कल्चरल एपिडेमियोलॉजी, this is your epidemiology, and this is your anthropology. So epidemiology, it talks about measures of disease burden, okay, and also it talks about risk factors and डिटर्मिनेंट्स ऑफ आउटकम कि रिस्क फैक्टर हैं क्या. ओके, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी टॉक्स अबाउट रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन रिलेशनशिप ऑफ कल्चर एंड इलनेस बर्डन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर इसकी बात करें हम, रिलेशनशिप ऑफ कल्चर एंड इलनेस बर्डन मीन्स दिस डिजीज क्वार्शिकोर विच इज प्रोटीन एनर्जी मॉलन्यूट्रिशन डिजीज. लाइक इन अफ्रीका व्हाट हैपेंस इज, जो चाइल्ड वीनिंग प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, लाइक व्हेन द मदर फीड्स द चाइल्ड ड्यूरिंग हिज इनिशियल डेज और हर इनिशियल डेज ऑफ चाइल्ड, तो क्या होता है, ब्रेस्ट फीडिंग जो होती है उसे ना जल्दी रोक देते हैं. तो उसकी जल्दी रोकने की वजह से the child is not able to get complete set of nutrition. Okay, that happens. So they have their own reasons why do they stop that. Okay, so it is related to that. The cultural context of suffering, these are incorporated into cultural epidemiology, where we have descriptive account of, number one is your illness experience, the meaning associated with illness, and the behavior which motivated for that illness. Second is cultural determinants of occurrence, course and outcome. So you see, when both of these disciplines, they come together, one is bringing culture, one is bringing the medical perspective into place, okay, this population variable and statistical measures into place. When they combine, then you have a descriptive account of illness experience. It is not just that, okay, it is due to risk factors that disease is caused. No, you are having more refined understanding. That when I gave you the example of AIDS, that people think that it is caused due to sorcery and this witchcraft. That brings into that, and the behavior which are associated with that. Cultural determinants of occurrence, course and outcome of a disease. As I was telling you about that weaning practices among African women, that they stop the weaning of the child at an earlier age. That what might be the reasons for that? Because those people are already struggling from malnutrition. So providing longer duration of weaning to a child means loss of nutrients for the women itself. If we go by one logic, all of that. So it gives us a cultural epidemiological perspective in place, and that's how it should be. So actually provide an understanding of a health event or a disease event, cultural epidemiology will serve a better purpose. But that has not been the case actually in the relationship between both of these disciplines. So if you look at the historical relation between epidemiology and anthropology, it is there has been many missed opportunities between these two disciplines. So it is a story of benign neglect, as we call it, and we'll deal with that. Okay. समझ आ रहा है यहाँ तक? इजी? कुछ ऐसा लग तो नहीं रहा? नॉट कुछ? ठीक है? So this person, James Trostel, he has talked about various events in history of epidemiology and anthropology where these disciplines came together. So there were he has talked till 1970s basically, like till 1970s, from 1700s or something, 1800s. He's talking about that. Okay. That how these disciplines came together. So, for example, there were many studies. Take Durkheim's study of suicide, 1890s. So Durkheim talks about 4 types of suicide. That how suicide, is prevalent in society. What are different times? Egoistic suicide, altruistic suicide, all of that. So he uses data from local resources, the repository of local, this medical system, that how people died, what might be the cause, what was the cause of suicide. Okay, all of that. John Grant's study of cholera, that's quite famous study. So there are many studies which have been taking place, and James Trostel, he has worked on, knowing about the history of that discipline. Okay. So it also says that the integration of epidemiology and anthropology is a story of benign neglect and missed opportunities. That there has been ठीक है, बता दिया करो विशाल जहां पर लगता है कि लिख नहीं पा रहे हो. ठीक है. ओके ठीक है, तो it is a story of benign neglect and missed opportunities. And nowadays also, you will find that epidemiologists are not working in anthropology as such. It is anthropologists who are working in epidemiology. It is not the epidemiologists as such who are working in anthropology, but it is the opposite way around till date. So, if you see that both of the disciplines, epidemiology and medical anthropology, their focus is upon human health, but the methods they differ. We are using more of ethnographic approach. These people are more into quantitative surveys, questionnaire, questionnaires and this focus group discussions, all of that. So the role of epidemiology is more about strengthening of public health सर्विलियंस. सो क्या करते हैं कि जो एपिडेमियोलॉजी है, इट हैज ऑलवेज बीन द केस दैट इसका काम ये रहा है कि जो पब्लिक हेल्थ है उसकी सर्विलांस को और ज्यादा इंक्रीज कर दिया जाए. जैसे आपके पास ज्यादा डेटा आने लगेगा, दैट मीन्स यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द पॉपुलेशन बेटर, so you can control them better. That is why Michel Foucault talks of something called biopolitics. ठीक है, that how can you regulate populations through their bodily systems, through their bodily functions. Biopolitics यही तो है कि how government can shape your biopower. For example, 2 child पॉलिसी ले लीजिए कि 2 से ज्यादा बच्चे नहीं होने चाहिए. सो व्हाट इट इज डूइंग, इट इज रिस्ट्रिक्टिंग योर बॉडी टू जस्ट प्रोड्यूस 2 चिल्ड्रन डिस्पाइट ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट द नेचुरल कैपेसिटी इज मोर देन दैट. स्टेरिलाइजेशन प्रोसेस जो हुआ था 1970s 80s में, व्हाट वाज दैट? इट वाज अ मूव टू कंट्रोल द बॉडीज वाया स्टेट. सो आपका पब्लिक हेल्थ सर्विलांस इंक्रीज होता है. ये तो आपने बता दिया कि ठीक है, जस्ट फॉर पब्लिक पॉलिसी एंड हेल्थ रिकॉर्ड्स वी आर डूइंग दिस पब्लिक हेल्थ डेटा कलेक्शन एंड सर्विलांस, बट अंडरलाइन फैक्टर क्या है वो एंथ्रोपोलॉजी बताएगी, एंड दैट इज बायोपॉलिटिक्स. मिशेल फूको, कंट्रोलिंग द बायो पावर, द रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम्स ऑफ द बॉडी, द बायो कैपिटल वैल्यू. जीनोमिक्स में हमने देखा कि कैसे इंटरनलाइज तक हो रही है सर्विलांस बॉडी के. ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ दैट. So on a जो रिलेशन रहा है दोनों डिसिप्लिन्स के बीच में, इट हैज बीन सराउंडेड बाय डाइकोटमीज. बेसिकली बहुत सारे डाइकोटमीज रही हैं बीच में. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल एक डिडक्टिव है, एक इंडक्टिव है, कि वन इज सेइंग दैट फ्रॉम जर्नल टू स्पेसिफिक एंड वन इज सेइंग फ्रॉम स्पेसिफिक टू जर्नल. डिडक्टिव इंडक्टिव यही होते हैं, जर्नल टू स्पेसिफिक एंड स्पेसिफिक टू जर्नल. ये चीज है. एक तो इस बात को लेकर डाइकोटमी रही है. दूसरी डाइकोटमी रही है क्वांटिटेटिव और क्वालिटेटिव की, कि एक डिसिप्लिन क्वांटिटेटिव है, एक क्वालिटेटिव है नेचर में. ठीक है, एक स्पेसिफिक है, एक जर्नलाइजेबल है. लाइक एंथ्रोपोलॉजी इज वेरी स्पेसिफिक, बट एपिडेमियोलॉजी इज वेरी जर्नलिस्टिक इन नेचर, कि डेटा लिया, घुमाया, स्टैटिस्टिक्स लगा के एंड छाप दी रिपोर्ट. ओके, सो ये एक नेचुरल आर्टिफिशियल जो वो है ना डाइकोटमी बिटवीन डिसिप्लिन्स, इट हैज ऑलवेज restricted their collaboration to come on a common ground. Okay. And because of this, you see, epidemiology, we know that it focuses upon why and how of a disease. That why a disease is caused and how a disease is caused in a particular geographic domain. ठीक है? But it fails to manifest the underlying social causes for that. कि आपने ये तो बता दिया डेटा लेकर कि एक पर्टिकुलर डिजीज है, ये क्यों हो रही है और कहां पे हो रही है, बट ये वाई एंड हाउ के नीचे भी एक बेस लेयर है जो ये बताएगी इस डिजीज के कल्चरल फैक्टर्स क्या हैं, बायोसोशल फैक्टर्स क्या हैं, इकोलॉजिकल कंसिडरेशंस क्या हो सकती हैं. आपने वो कंसिडर नहीं करा, पर यू हैव जस्ट एक्सप्लेन्ड दैट समथिंग इज हैपनिंग, बट व्हाट इज द कल्चरल बेसिक्स ऑफ दैट कल्चरल एपिडेमियोलॉजी आ जाती है. देखिए यहां पर वो आप मिस आउट कर गए, एंड दैट इज व्हाई दीज डिस्टिंक्शंस कम इनटू प्लेस, एंड दिस इज एग्जैक्टली वेयर ethnography comes into place that can assist epidemiologists for better policy recommendations. So if they have a good understanding about culture, the belief system, the narratives of the people, they can make better choices for the people whom they are working for. That's where collaboration works between these two disciplines. Okay. So, as I've told you, epidemiology is more focused on these relationship of behavior to disease, whereas medical anthropology, it is more concerned about the cultural context of the disease. Okay, so दोनों के बीच में एक ये है. And as Trousdale was talking about, James Trousdale, so you see जो ये थे इनिशियल कॉन्टैक्ट थे दोनों डिसिप्लिन्स के, इट वाज इन साइकेट्रिक एपिडेमियोलॉजी बेसिकली. अब देखिए क्या सीन है इसमें, क्या केस है. एपिडेमियोलॉजी वाज मोर फोकस्ड ऑन योर कंटेम्प्रेरी सोसाइटीज, जो अर्बन सोसाइटीज हैं, अर्बन प्लेसेस हैं आपके, वहां पर फोकस कर रहे थे ये लोग. ठीक है. नॉन वेस्टर्न जो सोसाइटीज हैं वो तो एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट पढ़ रहे थे. दोज एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट वर स्टडीइंग ऑल दोज ट्रेडिशनल नॉन वेस्टर्न सोसाइटीज. तो वहां से डेटा कहां आएगा, वो तो एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट लाके देंगे डेटा. सो दैट वाज इनिशियल कॉन्टैक्ट बिटवीन टू डिसिप्लिन्स. वहां पर इनिशियल कॉन्टैक्ट बनना शुरू होता है इन दोनों के बीच में. सो इतना बहुत है इसमें भी, दोनों के डिसिप्लिन रिलेशन में आपको पता लग गया दोनों के बीच में डिफरेंस क्या है, पॉइंट कहां पर आ सकते हैं दोनों साथ में, कल्चरल एपिडेमियोलॉजी में आ सकते हैं, डेफिनेशन आपको पता लग गई है. हिस्ट्री की बात करते हैं तो जेम्स ट्रॉस्टल का नाम है, वो हैज वर्कड ऑन दिस. ठीक है. तो अगर सिंपल आता है लिखना, व्हाट इज एपिडेमियोलॉजिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, यू नो व्हाट इट इज ऑल अबाउट. ठीक है. थोड़ा बहुत मेडिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी का है पर्सपेक्टिव कि मेथड्स में एथनोग्राफी कैन हेल्प देम इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग the inherent or internal dynamics of a culture. Or for example you can take this case, certain psychiatric disorders की हम बात करते हैं तो कुछ एक ना culture specific disorders होते हैं. For example there is this disorder called सुस्तो, कुरु. ये cultural specific disorders हैं. कुरु is related to it is more or less related to cannibalistic nature of human beings, to eat the dead. Okay. So जो women है, they are more prone to having kuru because they are the one who cook that raw meat. Okay, so the ancestors होते हैं उनके लिए सब ये लोग करते हैं. सुस्तो अगेन, so इनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो कल्चर से ही आएगी ना. डॉक्टर क्या डायग्नोस कर देगा कि एक वायरस है वो दिमाग में गया, काम खत्म. बट नो, यू नीड टू स्ट्रक टू द बेसिक नेचर हाउ इट इज कॉज्ड, तो वहां से फिर कल्चरल एपिडेमियोलॉजी काम करेगी. सो हियर बोथ ऑफ these disciplines come into play because there is a causal web, a web of determinants. ठीक है, for any disorder there is a causal web of determinants. For any disorder there is a causal web of determinants, and this web of determinants, it extends with the size and density of the population. That more denser the population, more the chances of having diseases like plague. plague क्यों हुआ? वो लोग तो उन्हें नहीं पता था ना जब लंदन प्लेग हुआ कि it is because of the fact that we are living so close to each other that plague will spread out. नहीं पता. तो size and density, it impacts a lot. That is why during COVID time physical distancing was recommended to people. Okay. Your biotic and non-biotic factors, they also influence the disease patterns. Okay. Genetic factors, demographic factors. ठीक है, तो ये दोनों के बीच में एक थोड़ा वो है. सो आवर मेन एम इज टू लोकेट दीज कैजुअल वेब ऑफ डिटर्मिनेंट्स दैट कॉज एनी डिसऑर्डर और अ डिजीज. ठीक है, and apart from this there is something called epidemiologic transition. We will read it here only, epidemiologic transition. Okay, so जैसे like there are it is mainly for developing countries. Okay, so आई डोंट थिंक कि ये चार्ट आ जाएगा इसके ऊपर पूरा, थोड़ा और छोटा लिखना पड़ेगा. है ना, बिकॉज देर आर सो मेनी थिंग. चलो विल ड्रॉ दिस लेटर. ठीक है, ये एपिडेमियोलॉजिक ट्रांजिशन है. सो इट इज बेसिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट लाइक इन डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, बिकॉज ये आएगा, आ सकता है दिस एपिडेमियोलॉजिक ट्रांजिशन कि हाउ understanding of disease has been manifested across time and scale. So before 20th century and early 20th century there was a set of factors for morbidity. तो उसमें आपके communicable disease थे एक तो, which are your epidemics and endemics. ठीक है, न्यूट्रिशनल डेफिशिएंसी थी काफी ज्यादा. If you look at across the globe, famines काफी ज्यादा prevalence थे. 1920 का famine if we talk about. poor sanitation and hygiene थी. ठीक है, in this early 20th century काफी खराब थी सिचुएशन. high child mortality was there. ठीक है, high disability was there. ओके, पॉवर्टी वाज देयर। सो ये एक सेट था विच इज नोन एज ओल्ड सेट ऑफ मॉर्बिडिटी, कि इन सब फैक्टर्स की वजह से, बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स, मॉर्बिडिटी वाज हाई in this before 20th century and early 20th century. These were the factors. ठीक है, and life expectancy was about 30-40 years, around 30 years, not more than that. So around, especially after your World War II, when there was this child boom, चाइल्ड बूम की वो आया था, पूरा सेकुलर ट्रेंड्स इन ग्रोथ हुए थे पूरे, हाइट स्टार्टेड इंक्रीजिंग, वेट स्टार्टेड इंक्रीजिंग विद हाइट, all of that. So from 1940, 60 to 70, there were rapid changes with respect to technologies also. Okay, so एक ट्रांजिशन हुआ, और जो ये ओल्ड सेट था मॉर्बिडिटी का, इसमें रिसेशन आया एक। ये सारे फैक्टर्स जो थे ओल्ड सेट ऑफ मॉर्बिडिटी, a recession came into this set due to this technological advancement. तो 1960-70 से 2050 तक की अगर आप बात करते हैं, तो क्या होता है, एक ट्रिपल हेल्थ बर्डन स्टार्ट होता है ना, अ न्यू बर्डन बाय द नेम ऑफ ट्रिपल हेल्थ बर्डन, इट स्टार्टेड कमिंग आउट। अब उसमें अभी देखिए क्या होगा, पहला बर्डन तो ट्रिपल हेल्थ में यही है कि ओल्ड सेट जो हैं वो कंप्लीट नहीं हुए हैं अभी, अनफिनिश्ड ओल्ड सेट, communicable diseases, they are still there, reproductive morbidity, maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, ये सब they are still there, nutritional deficiencies are still there, child wasting, child stunting, protein malnutrition, obesity, they are all there, rapid population growth, it is again still there. So ये old set is still there despite of the transition. तो जो ट्रिपल हेल्थ बर्डन है उसमें पहला तो ये आपका ओल्ड सेट चल रहा है, सेकेंड आपका राइजिंग न्यू सेट है, दैट देयर इज अ न्यू सेट ऑफ डिजीजेस और बर्डन विच इज कमिंग अप, इन विच यू हैव कार्डियोवास्कुलर डिजीजेस, यू हैव डायबिटीज, you have aging and the disease of elderly, accidents like traffic work, occupational diseases, emerging and resurgent diseases, like there are new COVID was a new disease, so these are emergent diseases. So unfinished old set, second burden आपका आएगा rising new sets का, and third burden है आपका lagging health care का, कि the health care is lagging across the world, where you have the health systems, they are ill suited for these new coming diseases. आपने देखा होगा कोविड के टाइम पर how the health system collapsed, they are ill suited. So that is why new epistemic knowledge is required. In anthropological terms we say new epistemic knowledge is required to treat and control these newer generation diseases. Okay, plus long term care for the aged people, like in Japan majority of the population is old aged, so and they do not have people to care for them. Then comes the disabled and the mentally ill people, so उनकी देखने के लिए भी ऐसा कोई systems नहीं है इतने solid system. Mental illness is still a stigma as we call it, it is a stigma. Okay, so ये ट्रिपल हेल्थ बर्डन है जो एक से शुरू हुआ ओल्ड मॉर्बिडिटी सेट से, एंड जो ट्रांजिशन हुआ है बीच में 1950s 60s का, न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज का, न्यूअर लाइफस्टाइल जनरेशन का, it has given a newer set of health burden to us. So this can be asked in one or the other way in examination, not just in anthro, in GS also, like health wala jo perspective hai, that how health systems or how human health is being, you know, taking a newer dimension, what is the new trends in, you know, the epidemiological systems of human health. तो आपके पास एक पूरा सिस्टम होगा बताने के लिए, and that can be asked if you are talking about how communicable diseases are being spread, you know, how they are being understood. So आपके पास एक एपिडेमियोलॉजिकल ट्रांजिशन है, जस्ट लाइक हमारे पास डेमोग्राफिक थ्योरी है ट्रांजिशन की, इफ यू हर्ड ऑफ इट, डेमोग्राफिक थ्योरी ऑफ ट्रांजिशन, दैट हाई बर्थ रेट्स, हाई डेथ रेट्स, वो पूरी थ्योरी होती है जो सिमिलरली ये भी एक थ्योरी उसी तरह से, ठीक है. सो दिस इज अबाउट दैट. हाँ, टेबल वी विल मेक, डोंट वरी अंजलि. सो 1 घंटा है हमारे पास एंड वी विल डील विद हेल्थ नाउ. हेल्थ एंड इलनेस को हम विल रैप देम अप. So you see, You guys have must heard of the definition given by WHO, that what is health all about, है ना? पता होगा? WHO डेफिनेशन है एक, बहुत नॉर्मल सी चलती आ रही है 50 साल से 40 साल से. बताओ क्या होती है? कंप्लीट स्टेट ऑफ फिजिकल, complete state of physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of any infirmity or disease basically. ठीक है, तो ये चलती आ रही है स्टार्टिंग से. तो देखते हैं कुछ एक डेफिनेशन हेल्थ की क्या होती है. WHO वाली आप लोग देख लेना, कोई ऐसी बड़ी डेफिनेशन नहीं है, लिख लेना. तो हम लोग इस कंटेक्स्ट में बात नहीं करेंगे, हम थोड़ा डिफरेंट कंटेक्स्ट में बात करते हैं. ठीक है, देखिए जो एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट हैं, दे यूज अ बायोकल्चरल पैराडाइम टू स्टडी हेल्थ, है ना? एक बायोकल्चरल पैराडाइम यूज करते हैं हेल्थ स्टडी करने के लिए. ठीक है, and while studying the biocultural concept of health, let me give you a very social definition of health, okay, which was given by Parsons basically. अगर एग्जाम में पूछ ले हेल्थ क्या है, WHO की डेफिनेशन दे देना एंड एक पार्सन्स की डेफिनेशन दे देना, क्योंकि बायोकल्चरल अप्रोच की बात कर रहे हैं. एंड सी द ब्यूटी ऑफ द डेफिनेशन. The state of optimum capacity of an individual for the effective performance of roles and tasks for which he or he has been socialized. See, पार्सन, टैलकट पार्सन्स. WHO की डेफिनेशन क्या कहती है? इट इज अ कंप्लीट स्टेट ऑफ फिजिकल, मेंटल एंड सोशल वेलबींग एंड नॉट मेयरली द एब्सेंस ऑफ डिजीज और इंफर्मिटी. ठीक है, दैट्स अ यूनिवर्सल डेफिनेशन एज वी कॉल इट. बट पार्सन क्या कह रहे हैं? टैलकट पार्सन, स्टेट ऑफ ऑप्टिमम कैपेसिटी ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल फॉर द इफेक्टिव परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ रोल्स. करना तो यही है ना, एवरीडे लाइफ में रोल्स हैं आपके पास, एज अ स्टूडेंट, एज एन एस्पिरेंट, एज अ सन, डॉटर, फादर, एज अ फ्रेंड, यू हैव रोल्स एंड टास्क फॉर विच यू हैव बीन सोशलाइज्ड. समझ लो कितनी सिंपल डेफिनेशन है, बट लुक एट द ब्यूटी दैट हाउ वी हैव कंसेप्चुअलाइज्ड हेल्थ इन सोशल टर्म्स. स्टेट ऑफ ऑप्टिमम कैपेसिटी मीन्स biologically also, not just socially. If you are biologically fit, you are in a state of complete mental, physical health, then only you will be effectively able to perform the roles for which you have been socialized. Every role you are, every task you perform in your everyday life, it is a part of the everyday roles you have to play. As an aspirant, you play the role of an aspirant when you study for UPSC. In class, you play the role of a student. And you are socialized for that. How do you become a student? When you get enrolled into a school. That's how you become a student. When you enroll yourself into an institution, you learn something from that place. So that's what Parson is talking about, that it is about the performance of roles in optimum capacity by an individual. Okay. Now we will look at the approaches to health. So basically, there are 4 approaches to health. First is the biomedical approach. The ecological approach. Psychological. And the holistic approach. So हर अप्रोच की एक अलग कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है, दैट हाउ दे डिफाइन हेल्थ. ठीक है. बायोमेडिकल अप्रोच क्या कहता है हेल्थ के बारे में? हेल्थ इज व्यूड एज फ्रीडम फ्रॉम डिजीजेस. सिंपल बायोमेडिकल कंसेप्ट यही है, वेस्टर्न बायोमेडिसिन का कंसेप्ट है, दैट हेल्थ इज फ्रीडम फ्रॉम डिजीजेस, एज सिंपल एज दैट. एंड इट इज नॉट टेकिंग इनटू कंसिडरेशन the social factors, the environmental factors around you, the cultural factors in disease manifestation. आप डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो, आपसे थोड़ी पूछता है कल्चर के बारे में, आपके कुछ नहीं पूछेगा, वो तो कह देगा ठीक है बुखार है, ये है वो है, हो गया. सो यू गो विद एन इलनेस, कम विद अ डिजीज, है ना वो चीज. सो दे आर नॉट टेकिंग इनटू कंसिडरेशन the socio-economic factors, the biological factors, the cultural factors into consideration. Simple explanation देते हैं that health means freedom from disease. Okay. Ecological factors क्या, ecological concept क्या है? Harmonious relationship between man and his environment. इकोलॉजी की बात कर रहे हैं. ये तो हेल्थ हो गया. एंड डिजीज क्या है इकोलॉजिकल कंसेप्ट में? मैल एडजस्टमेंट ऑफ द मैन टू हिज इन्वायरमेंट. ठीक है, इकोलॉजिकल कंसेप्ट तो ये आएगा ना, दैट व्हेन यू आर इन हार्मोनियस रिलेशनशिप विद योर इन्वायरमेंट you are healthy. As simple as that. The moment you started littering around your habitat, it is most probable that diseases like chikungunya they can emerge out. During monsoon, when waters it becomes stagnant on the rooftops, malaria might come out, all of that thing. So if there is a maladjustment with reference to environment, then disease will occur. That's an ecological concept of health and disease. साइकोलॉजिकल कंसेप्ट किस बारे में बात करता है? So according to this concept, health is not only affected by disease or your physical conditions around you or the physical environmental conditions around you or the practices which are there. There are certain psychological factors also which are involved into that. That what is the mental state of that individual is. What is the perception of that individual is towards a particular disease. कई बार क्या होता है कि you are only having a placebo that you are ill, you have a disease, but actual में कुछ नहीं होता, वहम होता है. So it is not just कि physical factors, biotic, abiotic ही disease को कर सकते हैं या कोई these germs and all of that. It is also in the psychology and the culture of the people. Just like Kuru, which I gave you example. है ना? Kuru example. And holistic approach. within this, the human being is considered as a whole person comprising of body, mind and soul. ठीक है, that human being is considered as a whole person comprising of body, mind and soul, and he is influenced by various factors which are ecological, psychological in nature, they are social in nature, economical in nature, okay, they are political in nature. So a complete understanding of human being as a whole person, and that's where anthropology is about, that understanding humans in their complex, in their entirety. आप डिजीज भी पढ़ोगे यहां पर, you will also see that whether the person's body is free from disease, whether his mind is psychologically fit, soul, the internal satisfaction, okay, in that sense. So, ठीक है, now look at, for example, I'll give you some examples that how health is conceived in different cultures. Like there is this people, the Kung Sang people, ठीक है, the Klung of Kalahari. I'll give you 3-4 examples, okay. These people, they say that the ability to sweat, it implies that a person is healthy. For them, sweat is a life-giving substance. So if you are sweating, that means you are healthy, because for them sweat is a life-giving substance, okay. The Tongan people of Polynesia, for example, they associate good health with mana, M-A-N-A. Mana is a supernatural, supernatural power. So if you have mana, then that means you are healthy. You have supernatural in that sense, okay. There are many other people, groups such as this. There is this James Bay Cree people. This James Bay, the Cree people of Canada. Okay, so these people, what they say is, so they are basically a foraging society in Canada, and these people, have their different names for health, how they use health as a indicator. Okay, like they called health as, so it's very big name, let it be. For them, health is about harmonious relationship between man and his social and natural environment, the ecological concept of health. So it's about about them. So as these people are foraging in nature, they say that if you are not hunting properly, if the relation of hunting is disturbed, that means you will fall ill. That means there will be negativity in your life, as these people, they say. Like in China also, there is this Han people in China. It is one of the biggest ethnic groups in China, the Han people. politically and numerically dominant. So they define health as a harmonious relationship between humans and the cosmos. So within them, there is something called qui. Okay, there is something called qui. Is there, and if there is an imbalance within this power, so a person will fall ill. So the qui has to be balanced in nature. Okay, there are other theories also, the humoral theory, that there are fluids in body, like in Ayurveda, कफ पीत नहाते ना, तो वो बैलेंस में रहना चाहिए, otherwise you will fall ill. So all of these are cultural examples that what health is all about. So different notions of health are there in place. ठीक है, सबका अपना अपना है इनका परसेप्शन क्या है. So there is this spectrum of health and sickness, where from, if you go from this part to here, if you go from here to here, you will find that the optimum health, it allows you to perform the social roles which you have been socialized for. You are in a state of complete mental, physical and social well-being. There is an absence of any infirmity or any disease. Okay? You are in harmonious relationship with your nature and culture, everything. Then comes positive health. So it is basically lowering down of the health status. So once you have crossed this threshold, freedom from disease, and this, once this threshold has been crossed, there will be an unrecognized sickness at first place. आपको नहीं पता आपको हुआ क्या है अभी, but gradually there will be mild sickness, severe sickness and death. The process cannot be reversed. अब death से तो optimal health नहीं आ सकती ना, है ना? It's not a movie in that sense. तो इस पैटर्न ऐसे काम करता है. तो हेल्थ और सिकनेस का एक स्पेक्ट्रम है which works in this fashion. And there is this person, Sander Kalman, makes distinction between experiential health and functional health. Makes distinction between experiential and functional health. So experiential health is about, it's more of a notion that you can achieve greatness with good health. You can achieve greatness, you can conquer newer dimensions in life by having a sense of fulfillment, a sense of tranquility in your life. You experience that system within you. होता है ना कभी कभी आपको, you feel that you're physically very fit, you feel elated after doing a workout. That sense of contentment within you, that's the experiential health. And then there is functional health, where, for example, your professor, he might or she might expect you to be there in the class. Okay, that is the functional health basically, कि आपको आना पड़ेगा वहां पे. It's more about ensuring the health levels of the people. Okay, so it is more, it is more at the level of tranquility, experiencing tranquility and notion of wellness. And your functional health is more about, performance levels for capitalistic production. ठीक है, functional health is more about कि आपको काम करना पड़ेगा. The labor of your body has to be exploited for capitalistic production. From an individualist perspective, to be in a state of health, to a capitalistic production of health. ठीक है, ये इन दो सेंसेस में सेंडर क्लेमेन टॉक्स अबाउट. So Dunn, he classify health related behaviors on two axes. First is your deliberate versus non-deliberate, and your second is health promoting versus health demoting. ठीक है, सो दो एक्सिस पे है, डेलिबरेट नॉन डेलिबरेट बिहेवियर है एंड हेल्थ प्रोमोटिंग एंड हेल्थ डिमोटिंग. सो इसका एक्सटेंशन की जरूरत नहीं हमें, दिस इज ऑल व्हाट वी नीड फॉर दिस. ठीक है, नाउ लिख लिया. So this question is important from not just anthropology, from GS point of view also. So these are basically your non-medical factors influencing health. Okay, non-medical factors that influence your health, and they are defined as social determinants of health. as the conditions in which people born, grow, live, work and age, and the fundamental drivers of these conditions. ठीक है. So you see the conditions in which people born, grow, live, work and age, and the fundamental drivers of these conditions. Basically all those non-medical factors which influences your health, the inequalities of health, the disparities of health, your neighborhood, the social structure which is around you, the division of labor, the occupational workplace, all of that, these come under your social determinants of health. Okay. So there are few social determinants of health, and let's make a chart of that. So basically these social determinants of health, they influence the structure of health equity. कि सबको बराबर हेल्थ का जो वो है हमारा एक होता है ना, that everyone should be able to get equal care, equal treatment, irrespective of age, gender, caste, anything. So it has a very big influence on the structure of health equity. And we will look at, when you will look at what are the determinants of social health, you will yourself believe that okay, these are the factors which influences everyone around us. At some point of time you might have experienced all these factors in both positive and negative ways. So this is social determinants of health. So anyone, क्या क्या हो सकता है इसमें, what can we include in this, बताइए बताइए, come on. Work culture, okay. So guys, tell me कि क्या क्या फैक्टर हो सकते हैं नॉन मेडिकल फैक्टर्स that determine your health, the social determinants of health. One is your working life conditions. Eating factors, basically food security. ठीक है, हाँ, what, I'm not getting it. Environment, okay. So housing, basic amenities and environment. So if you are living in a crowded area, there is a high probability that you will be more prone to sustain communicable diseases which can spread from one person to other, the infectious disease. Okay, and also environmental condition, economic condition, geographic reach. So within economic conditions you can include this, your working life conditions. Oh, we have written that. That was in the work. That is food insecurity basically. This is food insecurity. Your income and social protection. Income and social protection. It's also social determinants of health. If you have a better income, although you will eat more junk food, but also you can pay for your care afterwards. Okay, so you can have, with respect to social protection, you can have an insurance policy for yourself. Okay, geographical reach. No, not geographical reach. हाँ, तो यही सब है ना वो. So broader scale पर we call them as social determinants of health, है ना. सबसे important education. पॉवर्टी ये सब इसमें आ जाएगा आपका, हाँ, इनकम वगैरह में, इनकम एंड सोशल प्रोटेक्शन में, है ना, इनकम वगैरह में. अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड जॉब इनसिक्योरिटी, it influences your health, है ना. Early childhood and development. If you are wasted, if you are stunted in your early childhood, then it becomes very difficult to catch up. There is something called catch up growth, that despite of the fact you are not able to, you are not having the same height to weight ratio for your age, you can still cope up by having good nutrition. So catch up growth कहते हैं हम जिसे, कि आप बीमार हो गए हो तो क्या होता है कि जो आपके काउंटर पार्ट्स होते हैं वो आपसे थोड़ा ज्यादा ग्रो कर जाते हैं उस टाइम में, बिकॉज ऑफ इलनेस यू आर नॉट एबल टू ग्रो, बट यू आर गिवन न्यू, व्हेन यू आर गिवन अप्रोप्रिएट न्यूट्रिशन यू विल कैच अप विद देम. वो ग्रोथ आपकी दोबारा स्टार्ट हो जाएगी और काफी वेलोसिटी के साथ होती है इनिशियल डेज में, है ना, व्हेन यू रिकवर फ्रॉम दैट. टेक फॉर एग्जांपल ऑफ देयर आर दीज न्यूट्रिशनल रिहैबिलिटेशनल सेंटर्स, एनआरसीज होते हैं जो, when you know malnutrition children के लिए एनआरसीज आर देयर इन डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ द कंट्री. फैमिली रिलेशनशिप्स, ओके. So basically your structural conflict means due to your age, gender, race, caste, sex, you are being discriminated at places. You are not able to have proper access to that because of your conditions, structural conflicts. Okay. Access to affordable health services of decent quality. It is not just about कि सर्विसेज का एक्सेस होना चाहिए, देयर शुड बी ऑफ डिसेंट क्वालिटी. ये नहीं कि डॉक्टर के पास गए और बस वहां पर आधे तो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं ही नहीं, मेडिसिन नहीं मिल रही आदि. तो इट शुड बी ऑफ ऑप्टिमल क्वालिटी, गुड क्वालिटी, नॉट जस्ट हैविंग अ डॉक्टर इज सफिशिएंट. सोशल इंक्लूजन एंड नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. ठीक है, तो ये सब हैं आपके सोशल डिटरमिनेंट्स ऑफ हेल्थ. सोशल इंक्लूजन एंड नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू हैव दिस, कौन सी है, प्रधानमंत्री जन आरोग्य स्कीम, आयुष्मान भारत कार्ड, सोशल इंक्लूजन, नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, सबको बराबर ट्रीटमेंट मिले अप टू सर्टेन वैल्यू, 5 लाख रुपीज और समथिंग, है ना. सो मोर और लेस आदमी का इतना ही पैसा लगता है गरीब आदमी का, तो एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स इफ यू लुक इन अ कोलैबोरेटिव सेंस, एक होलिस्टिक पिक्चर देखोगे जब आप इनकी, डोंट लुक दीज एट सेग्रीगेटेड पार्ट्स. The sum of these parts is greater than the whole. सुना है स्टेटमेंट, the sum of parts is always greater than the whole. है, किसने कहा था? रटक्लिफ ब्राउन. The sum of parts is always greater than the whole. तो आप इन्हें देखोगे जब इसके कंपेयर में, when you look at them, तो इंडिविजुअली भी ये इतना बड़ा रोल प्ले करते हैं कि इंडिविजुअल की लाइफ में, दैट इट कैन जो होलिस्टिक अप्रोच है हेल्थ का, इट कैन जस्ट डिसमेंटल इट इन अ सिंगल मैनर। आप सोशल प्रोटेक्शन मत दीजिए किसी को, इनकम हटा लीजिए किसी की, ठीक है, एम्प्लॉयमेंट मत दीजिए, जॉब सिक्योरिटी मत दीजिए, कहां जाएंगे लोग? फूड इनसिक्योरिटी, वो तो अच्छा है दैट द गवर्नमेंट हैज टेकन स्टेप्स ड्यूरिंग दिस कोविड एंड ऑल की राशन मिल रहा था लोगों को, and the people are selling it again. There has been cases for that also, है ना? Working life conditions, ठीक है, and you say during COVID how the doctor worked in a very hazardous situation, कैसे how they worked in such a tense situations. Okay, early childhood and development, just एग्जाम्पल दिया मैंने अफ्रीका में कि वीनिंग प्रैक्टिसेस होती हैं जैसे, तो जल्दी बच्चे उसे ब्रेस्ट फीडिंग रुकवा देते हैं, तो दैट इंपैक्ट्स द न्यूट्रिशनल स्टेटस। तो क्या होता है कि इफ यू आर हैविंग अ फूड इनसिक्योरिटी, ऑब्वियस सी बात है, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड न्यूट्रिशनल स्ट्रेस, इट विल डेवलप इन द बॉडी, न्यूट्रिशनल स्ट्रेस आ जाएगा बॉडी के अंदर, ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ दैट। और क्या था इसमें? बस मोरलेस इसे हाउसिंग एंड बेसिक एम्यूनिटीज। Housing, I have told you, see within your own house, if there is no proper ventilation, if there is swelling in the house, all of that thing, there is no there is no proper way of for disposal of garbage and all, again you will be prone to more diseases around you. So jitne bhi concept and approaches towards health, biomedical approach, ecological approach, psychological approach and holistic approach, they all will come together if you look these in a broader perspective, ठीक है? एंड दीज आर नॉट जस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, बट इन जीएस में भी यू कैन यूज दीज, ये आते हैं कहीं ना कहीं काम, ओके? एंड अ फ्यू मोर एंड सिंपलर थिंग्स, ओके? सो जब व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग हेल्थ फ्रॉम थ्योरेटिकल पर्सपेक्टिव इन एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, तो वी नॉर्मली टेक थ्री थ्योरीज. Theories about health and illness, ठीक है, ये एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल थ्योरीज हैं. पहली है आपकी फंक्शनलिज्म, सेकंड है आपकी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, एंड थर्ड है सिंबॉलिक इंटरेक्शन. So functionalism, it considers how health and illness, it impact social order, how social order is impacted, as well as the roles of patients and healthcare providers. So more focus is upon what Parson was talking about, role performance, ठीक है? पेशेंट एंड हेल्थ केयर प्रोवाइडर्स के रोल्स की बात करते हैं. कॉन्फ्लिक्ट पर्सपेक्टिव क्या कहता है? इट सेज दैट हाउ health and healthcare reflect inequality and competition among social groups. That there is an inequality and competition between different social group to have access to better health, है ना? ऐसे तो होता है कि सबको ये चाहिए कि हमें अच्छी हेल्थ कंडीशंस मिले, हेल्थ इक्वालिटी रहे, बट जो रिच है दे विल हैव मोर एक्सेस टू बेटर हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटीज, ओके? And symbolic interaction, it basically talks about that meaning of health and illness, they are dependent on historical, cultural and situational context. For example, let's take case of mental illness, birth of clinic की बात करते हैं हम, मिशेल फूको. So if you go back 200-300 years, you will find that people who were mentally ill, basically, okay, they were taken care of by the people of their household only. Relatives होते थे जो भी, so जो people were classified as mentally disturbed as such, all that, तो बहुत अच्छे से उनकी केयर करी जाती थी. They used to be taken care of, कहीं भी आना जाना है, so all of that. But with coming of मॉडर्न साइकेट्री क्या हुआ? मेंटल इलनेस को स्टिग्मेटाइज कर दिया गया, एक डिजीज बना दिया. फ्रॉम होम इट वेंट टू हॉस्पिटल. हिस्टोरिकली आप देखें उस पूरी सिचुएशन को कि एक बहुत नॉर्मल सिचुएशन थी, एंड पीपल बिलीव दैट पीपल हु आर हैविंग दीज काइंड ऑफ इश्यूज, दे कैन कनेक्ट विद द अदर वर्ल्ड. They can connect with the other world. They have been blessed with that. But with coming of modern medicine, it has completely changed the scenario. सब कुछ बदल दिया उन्होंने. The birth of clinic. Now you have to go there, you have to get counseled, you have to get stigmatized from people around you, take medicines to calm you down, everything. जो नॉर्मलाइजेशन की हम बात आज करते हैं मेंटल हेल्थ की, वो पहले नॉर्मल था. It was very normalized and people were happy, no issues. But अब क्या है? It is a double burden on an individual. There is something called second illness. When we'll talk about illness, there is something called second illness. आप mental health, for example, someone is suffering from depression. वो ठीक हो गया डिप्रेशन से, चलिए मान लीजिए. बट सोसाइटी को पता है उसके ऊपर डिप्रेशन था, वो तब भी डिप्रेस्ड ही रहेगा, क्योंकि सोसाइटी हैज नॉट अग्रीड टू द फैक्ट दैट दिस इंडिविजुअल इज क्योर्ड नाउ. तो आप अभी भी डिप्रेस्ड हो बिकॉज सोसाइटी ने एक सेकंड इलनेस आपके ऊपर लगा दी है. ऑफ दैट स्टिग्मेटाइजेशन की जब हम बात करते हैं, होता है ऐसे, हर जगह होता है, कोई नॉर्मल ऐसी बात नहीं. एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट स्टडी अबाउट. तो थियोरेटिकल अप्रोचेस और भी हैं नॉर्मली, जैसे जो एपिडेमियोलॉजिकल अप्रोच है या और इकोलॉजिकल अप्रोच है. इट मोर और टॉक्स अबाउट कल्चर एंड नेचुरल एनवायरनमेंट के बीच जो इंटरेक्शन है उसके बारे में बात करते हैं. देयर इज एन अप्रोच ऑफ क्रिटिकल मेडिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी विच टॉक्स अबाउट द हाउ इकोनॉमिक्स एंड पॉलिटिक इन्फ्लुएंस ह्यूमन हेल्थ. बेसिकली आपका जो ये था कॉन्फ्लिक्ट अप्रोच है ना, हाउ हेल्थ सिस्टम. सो इट इज मोर और लेस अबाउट दिस critical medical anthropological approach, how politics and economics they influence the health structures. Then you have interpretive approach, the symbolic interpretation that comes into place. Okay, so yeah, this is more or less about health. चल जाना चाहिए ना इतने में तो हेल्थ का काम 10 नंबर में आएगा तो you know what is health all about. ठीक है. Number 1, I have given you definitions of health. अगर आता है what is health, explain from anthropological perspective, health के ऊपर कुछ बात आती है, write WHO's definition, write Parsons definition. ठीक है. Then you can switch towards approaches towards understanding health. 4 approaches हैं, biomedical approach, ecological approach, psychological approach and holistic approach. Make a chart and draw them. ठीक है, ये हो जाएगा. Then you will draw the spectrum of health and sickness from optimal health to death. आप वो बना दीजिए उसमें. ठीक है. Then you can talk about some social determinants of health. आप you can write them down and you can make a chart of it, a small chart of it. वो आपने बता दिया कि social determinants ये हैं. Then you can talk about these theoretical orientations to understand health. इसे आप पहले भी लिख सकते हो, not an issue in that. And जब आप हेल्थ की डेफिनेशन लिखोगे, फॉर एग्जांपल इट कम्स इन 15 मार्क्स दैट एक्सप्लेन द कल्चरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ हेल्थ. आपको मैंने 5-6 वो बताए हैं ग्रुप्स के नाम, जैसे आईकॉन्ग है, याना मानो है, क्रीबे वाले जो लोग हैं वो हैं, और कौन था, दो तीन लोग और हैं उसमें, है ना? हाँ, 5 लोग हैं ना? हाँ, एक ये रहा, हाँ। टोंगन्स ऑफ पॉलिनेशिया है, ठीक है। हान पीपल है चाइना से, ठीक है। तो आप उनके एक दो का इसमें लिख देना, जैसे कालाहारी पीपल कहते हैं स्वेट इज द सब्सटेंस विच इज लाइफ प्रोवाइडिंग, दैट मींस इफ यू आर स्वेटिंग यू आर हेल्दी, ठीक है। टोंगान्स कहते हैं कि माना जो है वो होना चाहिए, दैट मींस यू आर हेल्दी। जो हान पीपल ने दे टॉक्स अबाउट क्वी, कि क्वी का बैलेंस रहना चाहिए, ठीक है। तो एक दो आप उसमें लिख देना हेल्थ के बाद, दैट इट इज अ सोशल कंसेप्ट, सोशल क्रिएशन, दैट हेल्थ इज अ सोशल कंस्ट्रक्ट, इट डिपेंड्स फ्रॉम पर्सन टू पर्सन। क्री में क्या होता है, इट्स मोर अबाउट इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस बिटवीन हंटिंग एंड एंड द हंटर। तो आप ये लिख सकते हैं उसके अंदर। देन यू कैन टॉक अबाउट आइदर सेंडर क्लेमेन की एक्सपीरियंशियल हेल्थ क्या होती है, फंक्शनल हेल्थ क्या होती है, और यू माइट स्किप इट, बट यू कैन ऑल्सो टॉक अबाउट डन, दैट इज टॉक अबाउट हेल्थ एक्सिस, दैट डेलिबरेट नॉन डेलिबरेट वर्सेस हेल्थ प्रोमोटिंग और डिमोटिंग फैक्टर्स क्या होते हैं, ठीक है। यू कैन टॉक अबाउट दैट। सो आई बिलीव इतने में हो जाना चाहिए, काफी कुछ हो जाना चाहिए इतने में। तो कंक्लूजन में एक चीज रह गई, हेल्थ कल्चर होता है एक। सो यू सी एवरी कल्चर, जस्ट लिख लेना, इसके बाद आई विल मेक द चार्ट, ओके। सो एवरी कल्चर, regardless of the level of cultural complexity, be it modern culture, or any culture, they have their own perception and beliefs. Okay, every culture, they have their own beliefs and perception regarding healthcare and health seeking behavior. एंड ये होता है आपका हेल्थ कल्चर, ठीक है, ये हेल्थ कल्चर होता है। सो कंक्लूजन यही है दैट हेल्थ it is a socially constructed category for optimal performance of your daily roles, ठीक है, एंड स्मूथ फंक्शनिंग ऑफ द सोसाइटी। आप ऐसा लिख सकते हो इसमें, ठीक है। तो कल हम इलनेस की बात करेंगे, ओके। तो इलनेस थोड़ा एक्सटेंडेड है, लाइक देयर आर सो मेनी मॉडल्स टू अंडरस्टैंड इन दैट सेंस, एंड देन वील मूव टुवर्ड्स दिस, क्या कहते हैं इसे, इन्फेक्शियस नॉन इन्फेक्शियस डिजीज, ठीक है। आई विल मेक द चार्ट एक बार, कोशिश करते हैं इसमें आ जाए पूरा, छोटा सा बना देते हैं ना। एक मिनट, ऊपर से बनाते हैं। ठीक ना, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड सिंडेमिक्स। सिंडेमिक्स होते हैं, तो डिसहार्मोनियस रिलेशन होता है जब मैन एंड एनवायरनमेंट के बीच में, सो डिजीजेस जब होती हैं तो दैट्स सिंडेमिक्स। ओके, पुअर सैनिटेशन एंड पुअर पर्सनल हाइजीन, इसके लिए कौन सी स्कीम है? गवर्नमेंट की कौन सी स्कीम है पुअर सैनिटेशन एंड पुअर पर्सनल हाइजीन के लिए? एंड हाउसिंग के लिए कौन सी आवास योजना? इंदिरा आवास योजना नहीं है? दिस इज एपिडेमोलॉजिक ट्रांजिशन थ्योरी। इन लोगों का भरोसा कुछ नहीं है कि कुछ इस तरह से ही पूछ लेंगे वहां फिर आके कि हाउ थिंग्स हैव बीन प्रोग्रेसिंग। ठीक है, अब देखिए एपिडेमिक्स में भी रिसेशन आ रहा है मार्केट के साथ साथ। दिस इज अबाउट एपिडेमिक ट्रांजिशन थ्योरी, दैट हाउ दिस whole sector of diseases, how the burden of diseases it has elaborated across time, and what we need to study or what we are studying in contemporary epidemiological systems. Okay, सब कुछ आ जाता है इसमें। देखिए जो ऑलरेडी चल रहे थे वो अब भी हैं यहाँ पे, डिस्पाइट ऑफ द ट्रांजिशन विच इज टेकिंग प्लेस. CVDs, कार्डियोवास्कुलर डिजीज, ठीक है. malignancy and diabetes, cancer and all, stress, depression, aging and disease of elderly, accidents, emerging diseases. Okay. तो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज में हाउ थिंग्स आर वर्किंग, सो इसमें एक रहता है लैगिंग हेल्थ केयर. ओके, ये आ ही नहीं पाएगा यहाँ पे ना. लैगिंग हेल्थ केयर, तो पता ही होगा लैगिंग हेल्थ केयर आप लोगों को. यहाँ लिख देते हैं ना. ठीक है. सो अब देखिए, द एज इज इंक्रीजिंग, लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी इज इंक्रीजिंग, बट द बर्डन इज ऑल्सो इंक्रीजिंग. ठीक है, स्पेशली इन डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज ट्रिपल बर्डन है हेल्थ का. ठीक है, तो डिस्पाइट ऑफ द फैक्ट एक ट्रांजिशन हुआ है 40 से 60 70s के बीच में, वेयर देयर वर सेकुलर ट्रेंड्स इन ग्रोथ, वेयर न्यूअर especially in India, if you take the case, this green revolution was taking place, है ना, वो सब चीजें हो रही थी. तो अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड there was a recession in epidemics 1960-70s में. You will find that there was a very lesser number of epidemics and all after World War, you know, all of that. But अब क्या है, there is a triple health burden which is in place. एक तो यही नहीं खत्म हुए हैं जो ओल्ड एज के थे, ऊपर से नया सेट आ गया है, कार्डियोवास्कुलर डिजीजेस एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, और हेल्थ केयर ऑलरेडी लैगिंग है आपका. सो दिस इज गोइंग टू कंटिन्यू फ्रॉम 60-70s to 2050 एंड अहेड. दिस विल गो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस ट्रांजिशन जो पूरा यहाँ पर आया है. सो एपिडेमोलॉजिकल ट्रांजिशन थ्योरी है ये. ठीक है, दिस इज बिफोर 1960-70. ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो यू कैन दिस कैन बी, यू नो, एक सेकेंड, it's more or less about you will experience in all these things that the infant mortality rate has been decreasing, maternal mortality rate has been decreasing. If you go by NFHS data, if you see that, because we are a developing country, सो उस डेटा के अकॉर्डिंग यू विल फाइंड दैट एज इज ऑल्सो, लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी इंक्रीज हो रही है, सीबीडीज भी बढ़ रहे हैं, न्यूट्रिशनल डेफिशिएंसी कोविड के टाइम पे कैसा वो पूरा सिस्टम हो, तो ये सब हो रहा है, हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटीज एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो दिस कैन बी आस्क्ड दैट with respect to contemporary times, what is your take upon the health systems across the world? तो आपको पता है कि हेल्थ सिस्टम्स में चल क्या रहा है एक्चुअल में, स्पेशली इंडिया एंड डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज में, कि पहले क्या था उसे तो साथ लेके ही चलना है, दो चीजें और ऐड हो गई हैं उसमें. तो पता होना चाहिए कि हाउ थिंग्स आर वर्किंग एट अ ग्लोबल स्केल. एंड इट इज नॉट जस्ट कि यहीं पे काम आएगा, जीएस में भी काम आ जाती है सब चीजें कहीं ना कहीं, जब आप लिखते हो हेल्थ केयर एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, सो आपको पता है कि वी आर गोइंग अंडर अ ट्रिपल बर्डन. ठीक है, और क्यों आ रहा है वो, इन सब चीजों की वजह से, जो 1940s में रैपिड चेंज इन मिड चेंजेस ट्रांजिशन हुआ है, तो ये सब चीजें हैं. आई होप थिंग्स आर क्लियर. ठीक है, किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन है कुछ, इफ दे वांट टू से एनीथिंग समथिंग अबाउट, फील फ्री टू से. ठीक है, and is the pace of class is fine or I am going too fast or too slow something, or it is fine, ये भी बता दो मुझे, because that's important. So कल हम करेंगे illness and we'll go for communicable non communicable. छोटा ही है, ज्यादा कुछ नहीं है उसमें, बट क्वेश्चन आता है तो थोड़ा डिटेल में एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव से पढ़ेंगे. एंड न्यूट्रिशनल डिफिशियंसीज, एंड थोड़ा टाइम बचा तो विल डेवलप मोर इनटू द रिलेशन बिटवीन दीस टू डिसिप्लिन्स, एपिडेमोलॉजी एंड एंथ्रोपोलॉजी. सो मोर और लेस हमने कवर कर लिया है उसमें. ओके, सो आई थिंक इससे ज्यादा तो हेल्थ में क्या ही होगा, एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कवर अप हो जाना चाहिए. तो या See, Shriram, it is, I have written it, transition studies in developing countries. तो developing countries के perspective में है. India is in this. Okay, pace was fine. Okay, thank you. इसी पेस पे कंटिन्यू करते हैं. क्लास टाइमिंग्स, you will be informed about tomorrow's class. I believe इसी टाइम होगा, 5:30 to 8 or 6 to 8 maybe, more or less the same timings. Reproductive morbidity, कहाँ गया ये रहा. Have you heard of this term, maternal mortality rate, MMR? आप एनएफएचएस देखोगे, एमएमआर होता है उसमें, कि व्हेन अ वुमन इज गिविंग बर्थ, दैट व्हाट इज द रेशियो कि वो शी विल डाई. सो इनिशियल डेज में देयर वाज अ हाई this maternal mortality rate. Okay, the mother used to die while giving birth because of unprofessional procedures of childbirth and all of these things. So ये सब चीजें आती हैं उसमें. And also the infant mortality rate. ये सब. Okay. Okay, class, thank you. See you tomorrow. The classes timing will be informed in due time. Okay. Yeah.